We were honed in the traditional aspects of the law, and this is a whole new field. Well, it's not so new anymore, but it keeps evolving. You know, common law of torts, that's pretty much settled, but what's the application of that to cyberspace?
I think it's important to keep in mind of what cyberspace consists of. The average person today is using their BlackBerry, they're using emails. With the Wi-Fi technology, they could be in a restaurant or an airplane or on a park bench, and they're communicating, they're looking at videos, they're looking at emails, and this is an international type of sea change, really, in the way we think and in the way we look at movies and the way we listen to music, and all of that has repercussions and consequences. My own research is involved with the ownership of email and social networking. Let's address the ownership of email for a moment. Each day, there are over 1 billion emails exchanged throughout the world. When you think of it, the average person is probably writing and receiving in the vicinity of 200 to 500 emails a month. And then you also have to ask the question, are these emails valuable? Now, clearly, if I'm a celebrity, if someone is a presidential candidate, their emails have a tremendous amount of value for an autobiography or a biography at some point, a professional athlete, a professional entertainer, or maybe even it's just a person who wants to keep a record of what they did at a business for 5 years. What better way to memorialize someone's conduct or to celebrate an institution by historically going back to the emails and seeing what the president of a company or someone else said. Now, are emails copyrighted as soon as they're written and distributed? The answer to that's clearly yes. The copyright statute defines a copyright as an original work. And if there's enough creativity, as there usually is, it doesn't have to be a well-written letter, but if there's enough creativity in the letter itself, it would qualify as being original. Everyone who's ever written an email is the owner of a copyright. That gives it a special property interest. Now, of course, the employer is going to say, that's our equipment, and we're not going to allow you to have that. So the issues would be who owns the email when someone is alive, and upon one's death, who owns the email. All of this now has to be discovered, and the research that we're doing now is indicating there's very little law on it. So the whole notion of the ownership of emails, real value of a celebrity, potential value maybe for an institution or a person that just wants a history of the family. Can we really, do we have access to that? And what we're suggesting now is that the law change and address that issue.
The other domain for emails is the workplace. And there's no privacy protection for an employee or a worker that sends an email to a colleague. Even if, and there has been a case on this, even if there's been assurances made by the employer that all emails are confidential and will not be used against the employee, if the employee is engaging in negative emails about the employer finds out about it, the employer can take action against the employee. So although emails have the issues that he mentions, when you're talking about the workplace, there's no privacy protection in one's email. One of the biggest issues facing consumers involves data collection. Current research interest of mine is entitled, "Do you really need my Social Security number?" That has taken on a whole life of its own, given the security breaches that are not only domestic in this country, but they've occurred in Japan, Australia, India. And so that's a big issue for consumers, is how to protect the privacy. More importantly, how can a company guarantee that a consumer who gives personal identifiable information is going to be secure in that that information is protected and would not be accessible by thieves? The other issue that I've recently discovered is involves how long should a company be able to keep personal information, and for what purpose? There should come a time when they no longer need that information. For example, if an account is closed, What do they do with that personal identifiable information, which may include one's social security number? What do they do with it after the account is closed? Is there anybody mandating that they destroy it? And so what this leads me to suggest is that companies have to develop policies, conspicuous policies on data collection. The amount of data, the use of the data, whether third parties are going to have access to the data, ability for a consumer to get in and correct any misinformation, what happens in the event of a security breach, am I protected? I mean, there's a whole slew of questions that have developed in this area. The Global Cyber Law Center actually arose out of thoughts that Jerry and I had about what the next level of the study of the legal environment of business might entail. And that's probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was in the area of technology and the law. Out of that grew the thought of, boy, why not a research tool, a teaching tool that could complement the teaching of this, what we discovered was really a new area of the law for many of our colleagues in the country, and that took root in the creation of the Global Cyber Law Center.
The concept behind the center is really to have a virtual space where scholars, and students, professors, practitioners, sociologists can have a vigorous debate on the contemporary issues regarding cyber law. And so we have an interactive site. We have a message board, we have a blog on it, we also have a podcasting piece of it as well, where we're trying to share ideas on a global basis and just get a notion of what lawyers, business executives, students, and others would think about new technology and new software as it's developing.
What we found was that the law had a lot of catching up to do to the technology, and our colleagues teaching courses, and I think they discovered that as well, that the students were technology oriented, and the subject matter of law should reflect that, and so there was this catching up process, and it's still ongoing.
It's important to keep in mind too that the discipline of cyber law is relatively new, probably 15 years old. For business students to understand the interrelationship between technology and business and law and society and ethics is what the center is all about.